In the words of Voltaire, pen is mightier than the sword. Today, we delve into the life of this great philosopher and writer. Born François-Marie Arouet in the heart of Paris, France, he took on the pen name Voltaire, a name that would echo through the corridors of time. His father, a well-respected notary, had planned a legal career for him, but young Voltaire had other designs. He was drawn to literature, a passion that his father didn't share. Even in his early years, Voltaire displayed a rebellious streak, a trait that would later define his life and works. He questioned everything, from societal norms to religious doctrines. His curiosity was insatiable, his spirit unquenchable. He was often at odds with authority, but it never dampened his spirit. It only fueled his resolve to challenge the status quo. So the seeds of rebellion were sown early in Voltaire, shaping the man he was to become. As Voltaire grew, so did his thirst for knowledge and his irreverence for authority. Born François-Marie Arouet, this budding intellectual was sent to the prestigious Louis le Grand School in Paris, where he was educated by the Jesuits. The seeds of his skepticism were sown here, where he was trained in logic, rhetoric, and the classics. Yet his irreverent wit often landed him in trouble. In his early 20s, Voltaire's sharp tongue and satirical writing led to his imprisonment in the Bastille, the notorious Parisian prison. It was here in the shadowy confines of his cell that he adopted the nom de plume Voltaire. The name was an anagram of Arouet, a Latinized spelling of Arouet the Young. It was also a play on Voltaire, a word referring to a quick, agile leap or movement, reflecting his nimble mind. Emerging from the Bastille after nearly a year, Voltaire's wit was undimmed, his spirit unbroken. But his release was conditional on his exile from France. He found refuge in Britain, a land where, he observed, citizens enjoyed freedoms unknown in his homeland. He was fascinated by Britain's constitutional monarchy, its respect for civil liberties, and its flourishing literary and scientific communities. Voltaire's exile was a turning point. He immersed himself in English culture and philosophy, and it was during this time that he began to internalize the principles of Enlightenment thinking. He was particularly influenced by the works of Newton and Locke, and his writings began to reflect a deep belief in reason, tolerance, and freedom of thought. He returned to France a changed man, armed with new ideas and a determination to challenge the status quo. His pen became a weapon against tyranny, injustice, and ignorance, a tool to advocate for the freedoms he had seen in Britain. The experiences of these formative years made Voltaire the staunch advocate for freedom of speech and expression that he is celebrated as today. His journey from a youthful troublemaker to a fearless critic of authority illustrates the power of experience and education in shaping the minds that change the world. Exile didn't dampen Voltaire's spirit, it only fueled his fire. Imagine, if you will, the year 1726. Voltaire, a name already known for its controversy and wit, finds himself banished from his home country, France. The destination? England, a nation whose unique blend of monarchy and democracy intrigued our protagonist. In England, Voltaire's eyes were opened to a society starkly different from his homeland. He was fascinated by the English constitutional monarchy, a stark contrast to the absolute monarchy of France. He admired the tolerance for freedom of speech, the respect for individual rights, and the level of religious tolerance, all of which were a far cry from the French society he'd left behind. He observed the English, their customs, their government, their society. He watched, he absorbed, he analyzed. In the bustling coffee houses, he engaged in spirited debates about politics and religion, challenging and being challenged in return. And these experiences, these observations, they began to shape his future works. Upon his return to France after 3 years, Voltaire was a changed man. His time in England had broadened his horizons and deepened his understanding of governance, society, and religion. He wasn't just Voltaire the poet or Voltaire the playwright anymore. He was now Voltaire, the philosopher and social critic. His observations and reflections culminated in the publication of Letters Concerning the English Nation, a series of essays drawing comparisons between the British and French systems of governance. The book was controversial, scandalous even, but it was also insightful. It exposed the flaws in French society and advocated for freedom of thought and expression, religious tolerance, and separation of church and state. Voltaire's insightful critique of society, religion, and governance during his exile years sent ripples through not just France, but all of Europe. The man may have been exiled, but his words, his ideas, They echoed across borders, sparking thought, debate, and ultimately change. As Voltaire aged, he didn't retire his pen, instead he wielded it with even more fervor. In his later years, Voltaire's literary output was as prolific as ever, and his work continued to challenge societal norms and spark debate. Among his most notable pieces during this period was Candide, a satirical novella that critiqued the optimism popularized by the philosophers of the Enlightenment. Through its biting wit and powerful storytelling, Candide captured the absurdity of blind optimism in the face of life's harsh realities. But Voltaire was more than a masterful storyteller. He was a fierce advocate for civil liberties, a champion for freedom of speech and religion. He used his words not just to entertain, but to fight for a world where individuals were free to express their thoughts and beliefs without fear of oppression. His advocacy did not go unnoticed. Voltaire's ideas were instrumental in shaping the French Revolution. He had always been a vocal critic of the French monarchy and its abuses of power. His writings inspired the revolutionaries, giving them the intellectual ammunition to challenge the status quo and fight for a more equitable society. Half a world away, his influence was also felt in the American Revolution. The founding fathers of the United States, including Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, were greatly influenced by Voltaire's ideas on civil liberties and the separation of church and state. His thoughts on religious tolerance and freedom of speech found their way into the foundation of the new nation, forever shaping its path. The legacy of Voltaire extends beyond the revolutions he inspired. His unwavering commitment to free speech and his fearless critique of power continue to resonate in the world today. His words serve as a powerful reminder of the role of the writer as a catalyst for change and the power of the pen to shape the course of history. Even in his twilight years, Voltaire continued to inspire change, leaving an indelible mark on the world. Voltaire's life was a testament to the power of words and the human spirit. This French philosopher, known for his wit and advocacy for freedom of speech, was a beacon of the Enlightenment era. His innumerable works spanning plays, poetry, novels, essays, and historical and scientific works left an indelible mark on the world. Voltaire's genius was not confined to his literary prowess. He was a fierce critic of religious dogma and intolerance, and his philosophical discourses challenged the status quo, igniting the spark of critical thinking in many. His influence extended beyond his lifetime, shaping modern philosophy and the ideals of freedom and equality that underpin democratic societies today. And then there's Candide, a masterpiece of satire that continues to resonate centuries later, encapsulating Voltaire's unyielding optimism in the face of adversity. In the grand tapestry of history, Voltaire's thread shines brightly, reminding us that common sense is not so common. Voltaire's story is one of resilience, courage, and the power of the written word. We've traveled through time, tracing the path of this extraordinary man from his formative years, through a life in exile, to his later years, and the indelible legacy he left behind. We've glimpsed the genius of Voltaire, a man whose pen was indeed mightier than the sword. His life is a testament to the power of perseverance, the impact of intellect, and the enduring influence of well-wrought words. Each chapter of his story is a lesson, a beacon for those who dare to think, to question, and to write their own narrative. So why not delve deeper into Voltaire's works? Let his wit, wisdom, and audacity inspire you. Let his story be a catalyst for your own intellectual journey. If you enjoyed this journey through Voltaire's life, do subscribe for more such content, and remember, in the spirit of Voltaire, dare to think for yourself.